This is lesson 3 from our series, How to Play Blues Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain the difference between straight and shuffle rhythms. Be sure to download the free corresponding How to Play Blues Guitar eGuide. It includes all the charts and diagrams for this lesson, as well as all the charts and diagrams for the whole series. So in the last lesson, I taught you how to play the 12-bar blues form, but it still hasn't sounded very bluesy yet. In this lesson, we're going to take a big step into learning how to actually make it sound bluesy. And like I said in the intro, I'm going to teach you the difference between a straight rhythm and a shuffle rhythm, and then I'm going to teach you how to play a shuffle rhythm. And once I do, I think you'll really hear how much bluesier it sounds. So the first thing I'm going to do is play the 12-bar blues form again with quarter notes like I did in the last lesson, but this time I'm going to play it to a metronome. And I'm going to play it at 90 beats per minute, which is more of a medium tempo. And after I do that, I'm going to talk a little more and then give you some more examples and show you how to turn that into the shuffle rhythm that I'm talking about. So here's the 12-bar blues form with quarter notes again, played with a metronome. So the thing to be aware of with the metronome is that metronome is clicking at the quarter note. So every time there was a click, that's when I strummed. And if you remember from last lesson how to count the 12-bar blues form, when I taught you how to count the 12-bar blues form, I taught you to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was 1 bar. And then we started over 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the next bar and so on. And those were the quarter notes. And the quarter notes in this case are the beat. So I've set the metronome on the beat. So every click of that metronome was a quarter note, and that was when I strummed. Now I'm going to play eighth notes. And an eighth note gets 2 strums per quarter note click. So a quarter note strum, you get 1 strum per click. An eighth note, you get 2 strums per click. So I'm just going to demonstrate this and show you what I'm talking about. Again, the metronome set at 90 beats per minute. So the tempo was the same. I had the metronome at 90 beats per minute, but I was playing twice as many strums because I was playing 8 strums per bar instead of 4 strums per bar. A quarter note, you have 4 strums per bar in the time signature that we're using. In eighth note, you have 8 strums per bar. And you probably already heard that sounds a little bluesier already. It sounds better than just playing quarter notes. But now I'm going to show you how to play shuffle eighth notes, which is the shuffle rhythm I've been talking about, and you're going to hear automatically how much bluesier that sounds. And that's not to say you can't play straight eighth notes like I just did. What I just did was called straight eighth notes. You'll find that in like blues rock all the time, but for a classic blues sound, you're typically going to use the shuffle rhythm, which I'm going to demonstrate now. So I'm still going to play eighth notes. I'm still playing 2 strums per quarter note click of the metronome, and it's still 8 strums per bar, but you're going to hear a big difference. So here's an example of that. So that's called a shuffle rhythm, and I'm sure you could hear how much bluesier that sounds compared to the eighth notes that I played straight, and especially compared to the quarter notes that I started with. So now I'm going to explain exactly what I was doing, and then I'll do a close-up on the guitar and show you how to do it yourself. So to explain the shuffle rhythm, I'm going to start off by showing you music notation. Don't worry if you don't know how to read music notation. I'm going to keep it really simple, and then we're going to move away from reading music notation at all. But I just wanted to use the notation to explain where the shuffle rhythm actually comes from. So when we started off in lesson 2, when I showed you how to count a 12-bar blues, we were counting quarter notes. So for every bar, we had 4 quarter notes, and we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're on to the next bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we did that through all 12 bars. So right here are quarter notes, and I'm just showing these as single notes for now, just to show you the rhythm notation. Don't worry about the actual notes or anything like that. These are all A notes, but that's not really important for right now. We're really just focused on the rhythm. So these are quarter notes, so for one bar you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you'd be on to the next bar. Right here in the next bar that I have written are eighth notes. So for every quarter note, there's 2 eighth notes. So a quarter note has 4 notes per bar. An eighth note has 8 notes per bar. And the way you would count an eighth note, instead of just counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you would count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you still have your 1, 2, 3, 4, but after every 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you'd have an and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And if you don't know anything about music, that doesn't mean you're speeding up when you play an eighth note compared to a quarter note. That's not telling you anything about the actual tempo, but you would have to play these notes twice as fast to fit them in the same amount of time. And I'll show you that in a second, but just realize that quarter notes, eighth notes, or whatever I'm going to show you as far as the actual notation, that doesn't change the tempo. So next step, to get to our shuffle rhythm, we're going to take those eighth notes and turn them into eighth note triplets. So that's what I have written in this next bar. And so now, for every quarter note, you'd have 3 notes. And the way you count an eighth note triplet is 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So again, you still have that 1, 2, 3, 4, but now you have 1 and then triplet, and then 2 triplet, and so on. And then the next step, the final step to get us to our eighth note shuffle, is we're going to join the first 2 notes of an eighth note triplet. So if we look at this right here, this note and this note, we're going to turn into 1 note. So instead of 1 triplet, 2 triplet, we're going to have 1, let 2, let 3. So if we were looking at it right here with 8 note triplets, you'd have the 1, and then you'd hold that through this second note that you'd normally count trip, and then you count the let. So you'd have 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let. And that would be notated like I have right here. So 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let, and then start over. So this is the basic way to notate an eighth note shuffle. But everyone plays shuffles a little different because people are just feeling shuffles, and this isn't an exact representation of what's going to be played. This is just as close as it gets. So I'm going to play this through. It's just playing a simple piano type note, and I'm going to count along. So it's going to have 4 quarter note count off, and then I'm going to count each of these bars to show you exactly how you count them at the same tempo. And this is at a really slow tempo at 60 beats per minute. And then I'll show you what it sounds like sped up. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, let 1. And where that metronome was hitting, those clicks were on the quarter note because the quarter note is the beat in 4/4 time. Now I'm going to speed it up to twice as fast just to show you what it sounds like faster. I'm not going to count along this time just because it's a little harder to count that fast, but I just really want you to hear it at a faster tempo as well. So all of this just to really get us to that shuffle eighth note. That's what we're really focused on. That's the rhythm we're going for that classic blues sound. And something I should point out is that you're not going to see the shuffle rhythm written like I wrote in that last bar. What you're going to see are normal eighth notes written like I have drawn here, but up above somewhere, it's going to show these two eighth notes together equal, and then that shuffle rhythm notation that I showed you. And that's just so it doesn't get all messy on the notation. So in the notation, if you were looking at an actual sheet showing a shuffle rhythm, you're just going to see normal eighth notes written, but up above somewhere, you're going to see this eighth note, these two eighth notes together equal, and then that shuffle rhythm notation that I showed you. So just be aware of that if you are reading notation. That's how shuffle rhythms would be written. Now I want to show you one more demonstration without using actual notation, because this might be a little easier to understand for some people who don't read music. So now I want to show you this in a different way. Not everyone reads music notation, and music notation can be confusing to you if you don't read it. So what I have here, I just have Ableton open, which is a recording software, but all I really wanted that for were these notes in here, and these are called MIDI notes. And I have these broken down into 4 bars. So if you look up here, you can see a 1, a 2, 3, 4. Those are representing bars just like I showed you in notation. And in each of those bars, I have the same thing written out that I had in the notation. So this first one, right in here, those are quarter notes. The next one is eighth notes. The next one after that is eighth note triplets. And then the next one after that is the shuffle rhythm, shuffle eighth notes. So you can see the quarter notes, and then these eighth notes, there's 2 eighth notes for every quarter note. So if I were to take 2 of these eighth notes and paste them near the quarter note, you could see that 2 of them fit within 1 quarter note. So this is a quarter note, these 2 are eighth notes, 2 eighth notes for every quarter note. And don't worry about the A2, A sharp 2, those are saying the note names. That's not important at all for right now. We're just looking at the rhythm values. And then if I were to take these eighth note triplets and paste them over near the quarter note and eighth notes, you can see that 3 of those eighth note triplets fit within a quarter note. So you have 1 quarter note, or you have 2 eighth notes, or you have 3 eighth note triplets. And then if I was to take this shuffle rhythm and paste that over on top of the quarter note, you can still see that that shuffle rhythm fits within the quarter note, but the first note value is 2 of the eighth note triplets put together, and then you have that last eighth note triplet right there. So if you count quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you count the eighth notes, 1 and then you keep going 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you count the eighth note triplets, 1 triplet, and then if you count the shuffle eighth notes, 1 let, and then it would keep going, 2 let, 3 let, 4. So hopefully that gives you a little better visualization of it. Now I'm just going to play it through so you can hear this, and it's going to be the exact same thing that I showed you in the music notation. It's just this is a different visual representation of it. So again, really slow at 60 beats per minute. I'll turn on the metronome and play this through. And I'm not going to count along since I counted along last time. You can just listen to this. And then if I sped that up to twice as fast like I did with the notation and do that again. So all of that just to demonstrate where that shuffle eighth note is coming from and where that classic sound of the blues is coming from. But again, this is just to break it down for you. Don't worry about it. If this is confusing to you, you can just feel it. And this isn't an exact representation of how everyone plays a shuffle. Everyone plays it a little different and plays it by feel, but that is where the shuffle eighth note comes from. So now I'm going to break it down on the guitar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the metronome on. I'm going to slow it down a little bit this time, and I'm just going to start off by playing quarter notes, then I'm going to play eighth notes, then I'm going to play eighth note triplets, and then I'll play the shuffle eighth notes. And I'm just going to play an A5 or A power chord that you learned in the first lesson, the first chord of an A blues. So here we go. really confusing to you, if all this counting and the notation is really confusing to you, don't worry about it. I just did that so I can explain where the shuffle actually comes from, but more than anything, you just need to feel it. So don't let all that trip you up. If you're having trouble counting it, don't count it, just feel it. Now, like I said earlier, the notation that you see isn't exactly how you're going to play it. It's just more of a representation of how to play it, and all players play shuffles a little bit differently. And again, it just comes down to feel. And there's different things you can do to get different feels. What I was just showing you was pretty basic. I wasn't doing a lot to really spice it up. I was just playing like that, but there's things I could do to make it sound a little different. I could do something like this. And what I was doing there was, instead of just letting everything ring out like I did before, I was stopping the open string with my picking hand like this. So after every time I strummed, instead of just letting it ring out, I would stop the strings by putting my hand and pick back on that string. So you can kind of see I'm just resting it back on the string, getting ready for the next strum, and stopping those notes from ringing out. So that gives a different feel. Another thing is that I can release the note that I'm actually fretting. So in the case of this A5, it's the 4th string 2nd fret. That's an E note. I can release that note after every strum. So if I was just to play that note, here it is without releasing that note. Here it is with releasing the note. You can hear it makes that note die out. And again, that gives a different shuffle feel. And I can do the releasing of that note and letting the open string ring out, and it would sound like this. So with that instance, you have that open string ringing out, but you have this note that's being fretted dying off quicker. Or I could do it in conjunction with stopping that open string from ringing out. So then you get a different feel. You don't have as much ringing out. And neither way is more correct than the other. It just depends how you want to play it. It depends what you're feeling, depends on the song, depends on the music that's going on around it, what the drummer's doing. You can just feel it and get different sounds by little techniques like that. Another thing you could do is palm muting it and really get a muffled sound. And that's just me lightly resting my palm on the strings right in front of my bridge or right about on top of my bridge. And it really muffles those strings out so they're not just ringing out the whole time. So that's another feel you could get, another sound you could get. And just listen to different blues musicians and the different feels that they get, the different sounds that they get. Like I said, the notation you see isn't going to be an exact representation of exactly what to play. It's just saying to play a shuffle feel. And different players play with different types of shuffles. So for practice, you can just work on that shuffle feel. And you can do it just by feeling it. Don't worry about counting it or anything if that's tripping you up. You can count it and break it down like I did with the 8th notes and then the 8th note triplets and then turning those into the shuffle feel. But really, you can just do it by feeling it. Just listen to how I played it, listen to how others play it, listen to recordings, and just try to get that feel down. Just take an A power chord or whatever chord is easiest for you to hold and try to get that feel down. And you can compare that to just straight 8th notes if you want, just to see the difference. And then do the shuffle feel. And you can try doing it by stopping the string from ringing out like I showed you how to do, and releasing this note that you're fretting to really get that strong shuffle feel. You can also try it without stopping it with your strumming hand and letting the open string ring out to see how you like that feel. And just try different feels to see what you like the most. And really, it's probably going to evolve over time. It's probably going to change depending on the musicians you're playing with, the drummer you're playing with, the song. So just really get it down, see which one you like. Just stick with one chord for now. And once you have it down, then do the whole 12-bar blues in the key of A. And just do it really slowly out of time, without a backing track, without a metronome. And then once you're able to do it through the whole 12-bar blues out of time, really slowly, then try to do it with either a metronome, or really I just recommend doing it with a backing track. And with the eGuide download, we're providing a backing track that you can download and practice along with. So you can practice the whole 12-bar blues with that backing track, which is just a shuffle beat, and that'll really help you feel it and be able to play it through the whole 12-bar blues. So that's the difference between a straight rhythm and a shuffle rhythm and how to play them. In the next lesson, I'm going to teach you how to take these power chords and play what's called a boogie pattern, or it's just a classic blues pattern or rhythm, and make it sound even bluesier. So once you get this shuffle feel down, go ahead and move on to the next lesson, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and keep moving forward.